Hello. This lesson is on cancer and carcinogens. This is lesson 28 of chapter 7. Carcinogens and cancer. So cancer is a disease where something happens in the cell cycle. Normally cells grow, they divide and to make new cells, and eventually they die. That's supposed to happen. Cells are supposed to die, but they get replaced by new cells. So everything works out. But sometimes something happens to that cell cycle, and the cells don't die when they're supposed to, and they reproduce and they reproduce. And because mitosis is basically asexual reproduction, it's cloning of a sort. So all the new cells have the mutation that keeps them from dying when they're supposed to die. And so then they keep reproducing. And so you start off with one cancer cell, then you have two, and then you have four, and then you have eight, and then 16, and 32, and 64, and 128, and 516, or 556. I don't know. Anyway, you start with one, and then you, over time, have a lot. And so that forms a tumor or a mass. Things that can increase the chances of one of those mutations happening and increase your chances of having cancer are called carcinogens. And they include pathogens like viruses, chemicals like nicotine or various other chemicals in cigarette smoke or tobacco, and radiation. The human papillomavirus, for example, or hepatitis B, both cause cancer. So those should be avoided. Chemicals in tobacco smoke, including nicotine. So there's multiple carcinogens in tobacco smoke or tobacco in general. So, tobacco smoking is most associated with lung cancer. Same thing with nicotine. But the problem is people who do smokeless tobacco, chewing tobacco or snuff or dip or whatever you want to call it, they're still exposing themselves to nicotine and other chemicals in the tobacco. So what happens, they might get mouth cancer or they might get throat cancer. If you've ever seen someone or one of the commercials, anti-smoking commercials, where they have a hole in their throat, and they have to put a little device up to their voice, and they kind of sound like a robot. They've had throat cancer, and they can't speak normally, so that's why they have to have that little thing to amplify their voice. But, it even increases your chances of bladder cancer. I don't even know how, but it apparently does. So tobacco is it's just bad. Don't do it. Tobacco is wacko, man. And on the topic of vaping, vaping is still, people talk about the man. Well, look, tobacco companies and vaping companies are the poster child of the man, because they are knowingly selling a substance that contains an addictive substance. Nicotine is addictive, and it itself is a carcinogen and can increase your chances of various cancer. So even though you might get your nicotine through vaping instead of smoking a cigarette or chewing tobacco, you're still putting a carcinogen in your body and increasing your chances of various cancers. So just stay away from it altogether. Okay. It is legal, and it probably shouldn't be. But I think the government learned when they tried to outlaw alcohol during the Prohibition era that it's really hard to prevent things like this. They ended up having to repeal Prohibition and making alcohol legal again. So I don't imagine tobacco smoke will ever, or tobacco will ever become illegal. And frankly, the government, since they can't make it illegal, they tax it. and they make money, and then they use that money to help fund the medical care of people who develop lung cancer and whatnot. Asbestos, formaldehyde, benzene, cadmium, and nickel can also cause cancer. Radon is a gas that can seep up from the ground into basements and into your house and cause lung cancer. So if you live in an area that's prone to that, it's not a bad idea to have a radon detector, especially if you have a basement. Ultraviolet radiation can cause cancer, skin cancer specifically. So, as far as getting your daily vitamin D, you only need about 15 minutes in a short sleeve shirt in the sun, and you get all the vitamin D you need. You don't have to spend hours in the sun to get your vitamin D. However, okay, I do understand people want to tan and all that good stuff, but look, take it slow and steady. Get small doses, wear some sunblock to prevent especially UVB, because UVB radiation penetrates deeper into the skin and is more likely to cause problems. And stay away from tanning beds. Because some of them use UVB to give you a quicker tan, but again, that's penetrates deeper into the skin. Common types of cancer. I'm not going to ask you to memorize these, but you should probably be familiar. Prostate cancer is the most common in adult males. Now, women cannot have prostate cancer because they don't have a prostate. Breast cancer is the most common cancer in adult females. Now, it is not very common for a male, genetic male, to have breast cancer. It is possible. Men and women both have mammary glands in their chest. Okay. So it is possible for a genetic male to produce or to have breast cancer. It has happened. It has been documented. It is far more likely that a woman would develop breast cancer, though. So again, that's where doing regular, at least yearly self-checks comes in handy. Same thing for testicular cancer. Women aren't going to get that because they don't have them, but they could develop ovarian cancer. Ovarian cancer you can't really self-check for. Testicular cancer you can. Lung cancer is the most common type of cancer for men and women. Most of these cases, though, are attributed to smoking. Leukemia is the main type of cancer in children. Metastasis, it's a fun word, isn't it? Metastasis is when a cancer cell breaks off from a tumor, travels through the blood system to another part of the body, and starts a new tumor. Okay, so if you've ever heard someone say, well, by the time they found the cancer in Joe, it had eaten up his whole body. That's what's happened. Hypothetical Joe had a cancer tumor that metastasized and new tumors developed in his body. So again, the earlier something is detected, the sooner treatment can begin and the better your chances of remission. Cancer is treated surgically with removing tumors. Sometimes that is enough. Sometimes it's treated with chemotherapy, which is drugs, and sometimes it is treated with radiation to kill the cancer cells. Both chemotherapy and radiation are going to affect the whole body in general, because radiation and chemicals don't know the difference between a good cell and a cancer cell, so they affect the whole body. A lot of biotech research is going into developing ways of targeting medications at the tumor, or finding things that will only affect the cancer cells. So if you're interested in biotech, that's a good field to go into. Early detection makes treating cancer easier. So things that can be self-checked, talk to your doctor or to your parents about how to do those self-checks. And if you find something abnormal, talk to a doctor. Um, Warning signs of cancer: changing in bowel or bladder habits, sores that don't heal, unusual bleeding, finding a lump somewhere, chronic indigestion. There is such a thing as stomach cancer, difficulty swallowing, obvious changes in a wart or a mole. That could be skin cancer. Persistent cough or hoarseness. Now, just because you have a cough for a few weeks doesn't mean you have cancer. When we're talking persistent, we're talking about it doesn't go away. So, yeah. All right. So, again, these are in yellow, so they need to be written down. Cancer is caused by mutations, which can be caused by pathogens like viruses, chemicals, or radiation. Cancer can be treated with surgery, drugs, or radiation. So, there you go. I'll see you in the next video.